Doug Flutie, NBC Sports lead analyst for Notre Dame football, won the Heisman 1984. Of course, former NFL and CFL college football legend. And they have relaunched Flutie Flakes. When these first came out, they sold 2 million boxes when he was playing, I believe, with the Buffalo Bills. Proceeds benefit the Doug Flutie Foundation supporting autism, which afflicts his son, Doug Jr., and Doug will be in attendance for the Heisman Trophy presentation in New York City tomorrow night. Doug Flutie joining us on the program. Where is the Heisman right now, Doug?
Where's my Heisman? My Heisman is in, I have a little trophy room set up downstairs, and it's sitting on a pedestal, kind of on display, but tucked away. We see it every now and then. We go to visit just to make sure it doesn't get left alone. But the school gets one, I get one, so I have one at home, and there's one at the school as well. Carson
Palmer sent me his Heisman Trophy.
He sent it to you. So you have it as a backdrop for you from the show?
Yeah. He sent it to me.
Does this mean this is setting a precedent? Is that mean we're all sending our trophies to you?
I'm just saying if you want to. I'm not saying you have to. I'm just saying Carson Palmer sent me his Heisman Trophy.
Okay. Well, the standard's been set. Now I know. Well, I hang my lifeguard medals off of my Heisman. So, that's, important stuff. You just got to go over there with the Heisman and hang off the arm. I have a sports bar and grill up in the Foxborough area at Plain Ridge Park Casino that I take the Heisman occasionally, put it up there for about 6 months at a time near the restaurant. But other than that, it's usually home. My wife is very clingy and does not want it roaming too much.
If not Boston College, where were you going to go?
Chances were I was an Ivy League kid. I was talking Harvard and Brown, but then I also got an offer from UNH. I was thinking about University of New Hampshire because I really needed a scholarship. I was in a position where I needed a scholarship. And Boston College came in the picture real late because they had a coaching change and all that, so I was very fortunate to get a Division I offer.
Did you play at West Point your senior year?
Definitely did play at West Point.
Because I think I was there the night you had 4 touchdown passes against them.
Yeah, that was my freshman year at West Point. It was like my second start. And I had started the week before, or 2 weeks earlier, I started against Navy. We got beat. I played really well against a top-ranked Pitt team, and that was my third start at Army. It was my first, breakout performance, big game.
I'm also curious about this. I don't know if you faced this, but we were just looking at, there's lists there, like the least deserving Heisman winners, and I think we attach how you perform as a pro, whether or not you were worthy of the Heisman Trophy as a college player. Do you find that people have a hard time separating the two?
Not, my situation.
I mean, not with you, but I'm just saying that, like Jason White at Oklahoma, Gino Torretta, like their names always come up as, right?
It doesn't take away from what they did over those 4 years, what they did that senior year or whatever year it was they happened to win. They led a team. So much is team-oriented. And I say this even today. We look at the greatest athletes, and they're phenomenal. It might be a tailback, might be a defensive back. But if they're not in the mix for a national championship, more so today than even back then, they're not even considered. You've got to be almost undefeated, one loss at best, and, to get in that mix. And those guys that didn't have successful pro careers, they led their teams. They did what was necessary under the circumstances and, set themselves apart. So, I have no problem with that. There's certain guys that didn't play at all. And, those things happen. Sometimes, there is something to be said for the scheme. Certain quarterbacks get in the scheme. They're throwing all these wide receiver screens and they get 10,000 yards passing.
Yeah.
So, there are some parts of it that are skewed, but for the most part, you're picking guys that have had tremendous years and led their teams to, whether it's a national championship or not, in the mix.
He's Doug Flutie, won the Heisman Trophy in 1984, joining us on behalf of Flutie Flakes, a cereal that sold over 2 million boxes when he was playing. Who came up with that idea of Flutie Flakes?
It was an endorsement opportunity for me with PLB Sports, and they had done like a Mario Lemieux peanut butter or something and a salsa with a butter. And the most units they'd sold of anything was like 200,000. And that was kind of the benchmark that we were hoping to get. And all of a sudden, it was like the perfect storm. It was just an endorsement thing I had. And then when I got to Buffalo, I started the foundation. So we figured, we'll put the proceeds towards the foundation. And it just took off. And I just I started playing at the time. It was a perfect storm. It just really was. And it exploded. And, of course, Chris Berman eating them on Monday Night Football kind of helped.
I'm also curious what you think. Like if you were at Boston College and you were winning the Heisman Trophy this year, how different would it be, how teams would look at you as a professional quarterback?
Oh, yeah, it's night and day now with all the spread offenses and the undersized quarterbacks that are having success. And, I'm very jealous of the game today. A lot of the stuff that's going on right now in the NFL is stuff we did in Canada for those 8 years I was up in Canada. Complete spread offenses, quarterback design runs, quarterback zone read type stuff with run pass options off of. We were doing all that stuff in the 90s up in Canada. And I get a little jealous of that.
But
no doubt.
What were you, 11th round draft pick?
I was an 11th round draft pick because I'd already signed. I was projected anywhere from a first to a fourth.
Oh.
And I signed with the New Jersey Generals, Donald Trump, and I was under contract for 6 years. So just towards the end of the draft, as it was coming around, the Rams picked up my rights. But I was still under contract for another 4 or 5 years in the USFL. When the USFL folded, then the Rams had already drafted Jim Everett the next year, traded my rights over to Chicago, and I went to Chicago.
I think I was at your introductory press conference at Trump Tower.
Oh, everybody was.
But Doug, didn't it have the waterfall behind, and then it was hard to pick up what you were saying on the microphone because the waterfall was really loud in Trump Tower.
Yeah, I just remember. I don't know how the audio was in there, but I remember the waterfall behind me. It was just an atrium with levels of reporters and cameras, and it was a zoo. And they did it in a big way. And
did you get paid on time in the USFL?
I did. I got paid on time. I'll tell you what. That's the one thing I'll say about Trump when he was an owner. We were run like an NFL franchise. There's no doubt about it. We got paid. We had good facilities. We were at the Meadowlands. We had film, all that. I got paid. Now, there was a guaranteed portion of it that when the league folded that he negotiated down to free me, to let me go play in the NFL. So, I got all the money that was coming to me, even though some was negotiated down because I wanted to go play in the NFL.
And then you got a chance to get yelled at by Mike Ditka.
Oh yeah, that's always fun. Yeah, I was there for 2 weeks. McMahon had a shoulder surgery and was struggling, and Ditka didn't really believe in the quarterbacks he had, so he brought me in at the end of the year, and I was like on a fast. I was there for 10 days, and I was starting a game, and it was like plays on a wristband. The hardest part? The hardest part was that he had the old Dallas system, and evens were left and odds were odds to the right and evens left, which is opposite of every system that you would ever. Just calling a running play made me stop and hesitate and think. It was that was torture.
Oh God, I don't know what it was. Did Ditka ever like any of his quarterbacks?
The only guy that could play for him was Jim McMahon because he'd give it right back.
I know.
You had to be that kind of mentality. And Ditka liked me. We got along great, but on game day he was just really a little bit hot-headed and got frustrated and yelling. And as a quarterback, I always loved the coach to wrap his arm around you, give you confidence, go out, take some risk, and turn it loose. So under a guy like Ditka, all of a sudden you're paranoid to make a mistake. You're being careful with the football and all that. So a guy like Jim McMahon, who just give it right back to him, Jim just went out and balled and he played, and you had to have that kind of personality to be successful for him.
Joe Burrow is certainly an interesting quarterback from the standpoint of he kind of had an overnight success, even though it's not really overnight success. We had Rick Neuheisel on a couple of weeks ago, and he said he's a more athletic Tom Brady. And at the time I went, whoa, slow the praise there. But can you see that? Or is that being unfair to Joe Burrow and Tom Brady?
As much as I love Tom Brady, yes, Joe's more athletic.
Okay.
But he'll have a long way to go to get to where Tom is, but he's got those kind of skills. He really does. And I don't know if we're all just getting so carried away because we've never seen this at LSU.
Yeah, right.
LSU, I worry about that because I think the world of him. I think he's a phenomenal quarterback. He's had an unbelievable year. Everything, making plays, carrying the team, all that stuff. But then it gets magnified because we're used to seeing them go up against Alabama and play a 9-6 game. This year was 50-something to 40-something, and they're scoring points every week and slinging it around the field. And so it's just a different element that we've never seen out of LSU, so it gets magnified how great he has been.
And Lamar Jackson, I think, there's a lot of teams that could have drafted him, and then Baltimore almost missed out on drafting him in the first round and getting that, on that rookie 5-year deal here. So what is it about Lamar Jackson that everybody was missing out on?
It's the fear of the guy that's just run this spread stuff in college. You've always had this impression that an NFL quarterback, and you have to know your pass protections. You have to be able to read the entire field. You go back in my day, you had a universal route, and you read coverage, and that dictated where you're going with the ball, depending on coverage, and then your progression started 1, 2, 3 in that area. Now they are all used to being in the right play for the right coverage because of double cadence and dummy cadence stuff and throwing these wide receiver screens and then the quarterback run stuff. It's not as much of that full field read. And in spread offenses, the guys weren't always carrying over to the NFL and having success. And there's a little bit of a fear factor there. Can he stand there and throw? The difference is Lamar is a phenomenal athlete, but he can throw the ball down the field. He can make the one-on-one throws, and you've got to be able to win both ways. You've got to be able to win from the pocket because eventually teams are going to figure out how to take the other stuff away and make you beat them with the things that you don't do well. And so therein lies the fear. Is he going to be able to beat you from the pocket?
Hey, Doug, have a good weekend there, and congrats on the Flutie Flakes Part 2 here, benefiting the Doug Flutie Foundation, supporting autism, which afflicts his son, Doug Jr., of course, many others, and he'll be at the Heisman Trophy ceremony tomorrow night. Thank you, Doug. Great to talk to you again.
Appreciate it, Dan. Thank you so much.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune into Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV. Stream for free on BR Live or download the Dan Patrick Show app.